Welcome to a new episode of the Demand Gen Club podcast. I'm your host, Franco Caporale. Our guest on the show today is Priyank Savla, Senior Director of Global Demand Generation at NetBrain. NetBrain is the leader in transforming network operations through automation. Today, more than 2,300 of the world's largest enterprises and managed service providers use NetBrain to automate network documentation, accelerate troubleshooting, and strengthen network security. During his 7+ years at NetBrain, Priyank was able to grow site traffic by 30x, built a community of over 100,000 engineers, and contributed to a 7.5x revenue growth for the company. So with that, I'm very excited to welcome Priyank Savla, Senior Director of Global Demand Generation at NetBrain. Priyank, is absolutely fantastic to have you on the show today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
So I would love to begin with a little bit about your background and how did you end up being the Senior Director of Global Demand Generation at NetBrain?
Yeah, so NetBrain was my second role out of grad school. I went to WPI for my MBA in technology marketing, and I was working as an e-commerce manager back in the day for a manufacturing company where we sold a lot of their products online and on Amazon.com. So I was mostly in a role where I had no sales. It's basically you have content, you run your campaigns, and you see dollars. Easy life. And I met with the CEO of NetBrain, Lingping Gao, who was a really inspiring person, and I could see he had a brilliant product and a huge enough market to cover. And I thought that would be a great opportunity for the next challenge. So I started working at NetBrain. It was probably the second real marketing hire, and we had like no budget, nothing. Basically started off with a semi content creator, semi web developer, and semi BDR. So started doing a lot of grassroots marketing for NetBrain, and 7 years later, I find myself running a decent sized demand gen org with a 7-figure budget. So it was a fun ride. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So how big is the company today?
We are, I would say, about 350 employees, and we raised venture capital in 2014, and since then the company has been doing really well. And yeah, it's we are fortunate to not have to go through lots of rounds of capital.
And so what's your team like today? You started with just you, basically, you were first marketing hire. And how many people are in your team today and what kind of roles?
Yeah, I have 9 people reporting on my team today. We have 3 people in EMEA for field marketing. We have a senior content marketing manager, senior web marketing manager. I have my designer who also doubles as my paid social manager, because paid social is so visual. So I think I have my designer who helps out with that. And then I have our data scientist, who basically handles our tech stack attribution and that kind of stuff. And we have a couple of these people who have direct reports, who are interns, video producers, web developers, etc. More production roles.
Perfect. So tell me a little bit about your tech stack. This is something I always ask to every guest. I like to know what software you guys using and how are they set up.
Yeah, so our tech stack is pretty standard. We have Salesforce, Marketo as our core sales and marketing platforms. We use Visible for marketing attribution. We're Drift customers, as everyone else is today. Besides that, we've tried a bunch of different ABM solutions. Started with Demandbase, hopped to Triblio, recently introduced Influ2, and that has been really nice. I'm trying to remember if I'm forgetting any other vendor. We have a bunch of stuff on web. we went from VWO to Hotjar to analyze our web sessions. We've had WordStream in past. We've had Ad Espresso in past. These are tools for Facebook and Google advertising. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there might be any a major vendor that I forgot. Our sales ops teams they use Lean Data for lead routing, and we have a bunch of other tools for just data like Zoom Info and tools in those categories.
Does your sales team use anything for sales automation like Outreach or PersistIQ?
Not at this time. Actually, the reason why we don't have any of that is we don't really have BDR teams. So it's marketing, and we have our enterprise sales reps. And there have been periods when marketing had a couple of BDRs reporting into them, and we were very close to buying Outreach. But then there were some changes, and we decided to go against that approach, and we are trying to automate as much as possible with stuff like Drift and Conversica and those kind of solutions.
So is your main strategy for demand generation focus on like inbound and content and then qualifying them and passing to sales, or are you more an account-based marketing focused company?
I think we are inbound moving towards account-based.
Okay, because you also mentioned Influitive, so I assume you have like a community and you're going through from the grassroots approach.
We don't have Influitive, although that's definitely on my wish list. I meant to say Influ2.
Influ2. Okay, sorry.
It's the person-based marketing platform.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, Influitive I used it in the past. It's great if you are kind of cultivating a community from the grassroots, and it's pretty good if you have that inbound approach.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell me a little more from like this transition you're trying to make for account-based marketing. What kind of initiative have you implemented so far?
Yeah, so far I would say it really depends on sales buying, right? That's at the center of it. And there are sales teams that are more progressive who want to take that approach, and there are ones that are slightly more resistive and they like leads. So we are trying to cater to both of them, and hoping to transition. So account-based marketing, the key struggle over there is to basically have a coordinated system, right? Like you can run account-based marketing. When I speak with most people, it's really just a form of account targeted advertising. At least that is how most people are using it. But I think that's not really effective. You need much deeper programs. So what we've tried in past is marketing running targeted ads on certain accounts and sales making outreach within those accounts at the same time. We received moderate amount of success. I won't say the success we received in pipeline was dramatically higher than the inbound model, but recently we are seeing more promise with Influ2. Influ2 is an account-based advertising platform. It's not exactly account-based, it's person-based, but they can help you advertise to specific people. And in Salesforce, you can see specific dashboards around a certain individual. How many impressions have they had on the site? How many visits have they had on their site, on our site? And using that, if we are able to get our reps to reach out with, again, a nice targeted follow-up, marketing pretty much writes all their emails and everything for them. If we do that, we are seeing decent enough meeting rate. And we are, again, very new to Influ2. So this is past 2 months, but we are seeing close to 3 to 4% of our traffic booking meetings with sales, if sales performs targeted outreach fairly quickly. So we are trying to grow our success over there, and at some point we might get to a point where we are able to make that switch. Another barrier besides sales culture around like what they are used to and them wanting leads is that account-based marketing doesn't have scale today. Most when I try to advertise with using vendors like Demandbase, Triblio, Influ2, I'm just not able to use the budget I allocate for ABM, just because they are still trying to figure out how to map their data, uh, how to map their data efficiently in a way where they have enough advertising inventory. So I think that's another issue. I've seen other interesting concepts around direct mail, um, and yeah, there are a few other ideas that we want to explore, but this is pretty much what we've done so far.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with like demand-based terminals, especially a couple of years ago when I don't know if now they built more data, but sometimes you weren't able to spend all the budget allocated just because there was enough cookies matching the accounts that we selected.
And it's probably getting worse during COVID, because I know Demandbase specifically relied heavily on IP data and less on cookie data. So yeah, I think these guys still have a long road ahead, but I still think there are interesting applications for NetBrain, because a huge chunk of our revenue, majority of our revenue comes from the top 10 deals of the year. So because we play in an enterprise space, we can still afford to not have that scale and persist with our investments and effort.
And so what are your top lead sources today? Since account-based marketing, you're still experimenting. What do you rely on?
I would say my top source will still be Google.
So organic search?
Organic and paid, both. Organic, I mean, if I had to talk about our top pipeline source and maybe not lead count source, dollar value, it has to be organic. And it's natural. I still think you have to take that with grain of salt. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it's exactly organic. It just means that you don't know what were the previous touches that happened before, right? So that happens very often. I would say our second source would be paid search. Third would be paid social. Fourth, trade shows. So yeah, for new leads and pipeline, our current state is still heavily geared towards the traditional inbound type model.
Perfect. And so when you look at the attribution, because you mentioned now that you might have some challenges understanding if it's actually organic or it might come from different sources. You mentioned you use Visible. How do you look at attribution today? Are you looking more at the first touch, last touch, multi-touch, or different models?
We are looking at the W-shaped model.
W-shape. Okay, so you look at the first anonymous touch and then when it become a lead and then opportunity?
Correct. So we do 30% attribution for first touch lead creation and opportunity creation, and then split 10% across all other touches.
So you're not interested, once a lead becomes an opportunity, your job is done from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, yeah. For the most part, I think once it's an opportunity, our job is done. And again, this is just a model that helps us understand what messages and campaigns and channels are more persuasive at people starting to evaluate NetBrain. And we are a complex enterprise software, so a lot of different things can go south after that point. There might not be vendor compatibility, and there might not be tech compatibility between what NetBrain does and customer wants. But that's not to say that what happened before didn't work, right? So I think that is our baseline. However, we usually take our attribution out of Visible, put it on spreadsheets, and we review all deals over $100,000 manually, and we readjust the attribution, and then that ROI analysis is what gets presented to board and CEO.
So you move the data into Excel spreadsheet to aggregate.
Yeah, because even Visible can't be accurate, right? Like the best way to do ROI analysis and attribution is to actually open open that account and open that opportunity in Salesforce and just go through timeline of events, right? If sometimes genuinely salespeople are already in contact with someone before they engage in marketing, campaigns. So it's unfair for marketing to get that credit. And there are times when it's very clear that, sales, our reps just downloaded that name from a database like ZoomInfo, and then they perform a marketing activity. And I think although it shows like sales generated lead, it's clearly marketing generated because there was no communication happening from sales side. So I think we believe it's worth the effort to do that for deal sizes that are 6-figure and higher. It doesn't take that long, and that gives us a more it just gives us a more real view into how we are doing.
So what do you think are some of the biggest challenges today for a startup in particular to track this attribution and become better at performing this analysis, especially for those that have medium-long sales cycle?
Yeah, I think the challenges for most companies would stay the same. People are using a lot of different devices. People are using a lot of different browsers. People are using incognito browsers. It's hard to be 100% over here unless you are someone like Amazon, where people live in your app, and pretty much all their touch points can be measured. And I think measuring touch points is easy, but grouping them to an identity is not that easy. So that remains to be the biggest challenge. But I don't think marketers should, try to. I've had honest conversation with my CEO saying that there is no possible way to clearly attribute, to completely attribute marketing impact. So you need to put in some time and do manual review of deals in Salesforce and like talk to customers, actually ask them questions. Where did they hear about? How did they find out about you? What motivated them to start an evaluation and stuff like that? You learn from there. So I think it's a hybrid approach. Do enough to get clarity, but don't go so crazy where it just becomes a full-time job.
And how much of this process depends on the sales team taking actions like, I don't know, tracking the contacts correctly in Salesforce, or flagging them, adding campaigns, or doing any manual activity?
I think that's important, right? So if you are, and there are two schools of thoughts over here. Some companies don't try to divide attribution between marketing and sales. All pipeline is creating, you can operate under the assumption that all pipeline is created by both marketing and sales. And in that model, there isn't a whole lot of disagreement. Then you are just finding which marketing campaigns touched or created more pipeline relatively. And then there is a school of thought where how much pipeline did sales create versus marketing created pipeline. And I think that is where it gets more complex. So if sales, does not follow, different data hygiene rules in place, it might just get hard. If they don't put in their activity, they might not get enough attribution. If they just download tons and tons of leads from contact databases in their Salesforce, it will be hard for marketing to generate any new lead, right? So because everyone exists in the database already. And so all the touch points that happen can only be opportunity creation touch points. So there are semantics and technical challenges, and yeah, it's important. And I don't think we've really figured that out, because in the end, we want sales to focus on selling, and we try to remind them of what we expect them to do. And, the more we remind them, it gets better, but I don't think we are being very strict about it at NetBrain.
And from your end, what are the metrics that you report to your CEO or to the executive team? What are the metrics that you measure and monitor on a weekly or monthly basis?
Yeah, so we report on two core metrics every week, which would be number of number of activities grouped by different types, like um, low touch activity, something like a white paper download, like and then like super kind of sales ready activities like requesting a demo or quote. So we show a table of all different types of activities performed, and we show pipeline created on any given week.
Do you also track revenue or just the qualified pipeline?
We do that once a quarter.
Okay, once a quarter.
Because we have manual review of 100K plus deals, because that adjusts our visible generated attribution. So we make adjustments to that upon manual review of 100K plus deals. So we can only do that once a quarter. So we do that quarterly.
Perfect. And so I want to kind of shift gear a little bit and start talking campaigns. So from the metrics to the campaigns, what is an example of a really successful campaign that you set up that worked really well? And also I would like an example of a campaign that did not work well, an experiment or a test that you run. And it can be a NetBrain or in a previous role as well.
Yeah, so the most successful campaign that I've ever run was a campaign. It's a technical industry kind of message around dynamic network mapping. So NetBrain has a product that's more innovative and more capable than our peers. And this was a few years ago, and we figured out like the perfect way to describe it. And it was just a standard campaign. We ran Google ads, LinkedIn ads, and it had a beautiful landing page that exactly explained what dynamic mapping meant. And it really resonated because we had excellent product market fit. The demand was strong, and that was super successful. But it's not so much about any like demand gen tactics. It's more, I think I would attribute success to message more than anything.
And what was your success metrics there? Were you tracking like, number of meetings? Was it just an awareness? What were you looking for?
Back then, meetings and pipeline.
Meetings and pipeline, cool. And so on the other end, what's the example of a test that you run? It could be like a new channel that you experimented with or something new that didn't work out that you don't want to try again.
Content syndication always fails. I think that has never succeeded. But yeah, I just think like there is, I don't know. Have you like had issues with content syndication?
I did with the generic ones, like, those platforms that offer to syndicate your content across multiple channels and then send you a list of leads. Those one have always,
in Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, those one have always failed.
I wonder if those people actually perform those activities or if it's like just a scam of some sort, because every time I get those, the only way it succeeds is sales does nothing with them. If they follow up at some point, they will hear back from someone that, they never downloaded that asset or anything. So I've got a lot of those, even from reputed trade publications, to a degree that I've like just lost confidence in it. And luckily I didn't burn too much before I found out that content syndication is just so hard to get any value out of.
Yeah, so I had a similar experience where I get all this list of leads and we follow up and they say, no, I never downloaded any content or anything similar. And it's so common response that you start to believe that might be true. But on the other hand, I had some success with a specific publication when I was working on within a niche, like in the hotel space or in the mobile space. Those were actually good, but because we were driving traffic to our landing page. So
that's the key, because now you have a proof that that content was actually accepted or requested by whoever you were targeting. I think the spreadsheet ones, I recommend everyone to stay away from them.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. So I want to start talking also about your relationship with the sales team, kind of to close this conversation. You mentioned a few things, something like reviewing the six-figure deals together and looking if, where they come from. I would like to know, like, do you have any ongoing process to maintain that alignment with the sales team, and how is it working for you?
Yeah, so we have a bi-weekly meeting where sales team holds marketing accountable for lead quality, and marketing holds them accountable for 9 touches they have to make on every lead. So that we are using that format, and that has been working really well.
And do you have anything else on top, like when they do like the forecast call or the
We are
kickoff?
invited.
Yeah.
We are invited to forecast calls, but it's not super tactical in terms of our relationship at NetBrain. Um, we also are a blue ocean product, like we call it. So we don't have like the band qualifiers if somebody has budget or timeline for our product, because our product is needed, and there is no alternative to what we do. So it's not like we are waiting for a specific event or someone's contract to come up on certain thing. Yeah, so which is why pretty much any lead that meets certain demographics is a qualified lead. Uh, in terms of them performing those 9 touches until they disqualify it or send it back to marketing. So we mostly use that method, and we have deeper conversations with our CRO and other leaders to run very specific campaigns. And sales is involved in planning of those campaigns. I think that's another tip that really helps. If you before you create your own marketing strategies, even if you just run it by sales and they feel that they had the opportunity to provide an input, that automatically brings them on board.
Awesome. So I have one more question on this. Do you think the SDR should report to marketing or sales or both?
I think SDR should report to a good SDR leader more than whether that leader sits in marketing or sales. I have managed an SDR organization for a very brief period, and I've truly come to appreciate the skill, and there is a real art to doing that job properly. And I think someone who has mastered that, whether they sit on marketing or sales, I don't think that matters so much. Although when I speak with other peers of mine, the trend seems to be that it's going more and more towards marketing.
Yeah, I can see that too, even though a lot of people have different opinions on that. But I see as well, especially for inbound, for SDR that follow up to inbound leads, kind of moving into marketing more and more.
Yeah, because basically SDRs fight for attention, right? Because people they are trying to book meetings with are inundated with so many emails, so many calls, million LinkedIn requests, and standing out from competition is more, I would say it's probably more of a marketing skill set. So for that reason, I'm slightly biased. I'll say marketing should be managing SDRs, but I did also spend few months trying to find an SDR director, and I met people who are really good, and I met people who weren't who weren't ready for the creativity and variety of tactics you need to apply in 2020 to stand out, who just did not have those chops and or not having chops is one thing, but even not acknowledging that there is a need to do that, I think is a slightly different problem. So seeing the changes that I'm observing and everything getting more techy, I think it makes sense that marketing has that. But I think again, if there is a strong SDR leader in between, it almost doesn't matter where they sit, because that SDR manager can make up, as long as they have those skills, it's going to be okay.
I agree 100%. And so Priyank, I have one last question before we close this. And you mentioned at the beginning that you started your role at NetBrain with basically no budget, and now you have a 7-figure budget. What can you share as a tip for us if a company doesn't have a lot of budget? How can we generate lead on a very, very tiny amount on a very small marketing budget?
I I think it's really not that hard if you immerse yourself in your community. You know, you can like just meet people, and you can, literally generate your own leads. I participated in a lot of LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, without any incentive. I offered to co-admin a lot of network engineering groups on LinkedIn and Facebook, help, moderate that stuff on those groups. And again, like, I can't show that to my CEO and be like, I accomplished this because I'm serving other people. But by doing that, I built really strong relationships, and I just had people promoting me and NetBrain, my company, because I was helping them. I started working with our customers. I think building a referral marketing, again, super underappreciated. I think that's important. It's almost criminal to spend $1 of your budget until you maximize on these things, until you maximize on forums. I will like hear this all the time. Marketers would say that they don't have budget, and if you look up their company, there are unanswered questions about their products and services on the internet. So I think like you should almost like make budget slightly less significant in your game plan overall, and automatically, like, you will just see that there are so many visible options.
Yeah, that's an awesome tip. I see a lot of those on Quora as well. People that ask questions about specific products and zero answer.
Yeah, you have a lead sitting there, right? And there are no answers. And then like that same company will be spending thousands and thousands of dollars on like close to zero click-through rate advertising on the internet. So I think it's just easy workflows. People get very used to it. Same reason why people are spending so much on trade shows and list purchases, and those things still exist, right? Trade shows, I think, serve a purpose, but list purchases and all of that, it still exists. There are still people buying leads on content syndication. So I think a lot of that is more habit-based. But if you immerse yourself in your industry and you talk to people, and you actually network and get to know, I think you will just automatically see there are so many opportunities. SEO is huge again, but just saying, like, if you really try, I think there are so many options. I can't even go on listing all of them.
Awesome. Priyank, it was really great having you as a guest on the episode today. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.